My best friend claims my husband is in love with her. So I, 24F, have this friend, 25F, I've known since grade school, and we haven't been close since high school. I graduated early, went to college, meet my husband, 30M, and have since had a child, 2F, and another on the way with him. We hang out every 6 months or so, catching up over dinner or going out dancing in a big group, few and far between. Since having kids, we've drifted even farther apart because she is anti-children and very vocal and kind of rude about it, making jokes about how I should have aborted my child. She has also gone through a few breakups and always making comments about how no, everyone has it easy, like me and the life I have with my husband. I'm always sympathetic and supportive, but it doesn't really seem to alleviate her backhanded and passive aggressiveness towards me. No biggie to me. I decided there's no reason for me to reach out or see her often then. Here's where the real problem starts. Last New Year's Eve, my husband and I decided we wanted to go out dancing, two-stepping, and invite a big group. So we included her as there weren't very many issues with her at this time. We had a fun time, and since she was the only one without a partner, her friend's husband, me, and my husband all danced with her. This is pretty typical behavior where I'm from, especially in a group setting where someone is getting left out and no one else in the bar was asking her to dance. My husband and I went dancing all the time when we first met, and it's one our favorite things to do together. So when he asked my friend, she made a huge deal and kept asking me if it was okay. Of course, I said yes, and he comes back telling me that she forced him to stay out for 2 songs, and it was very awkward for home, but he was glad it was over with. The rest of the night is normal, and we don't think twice about it, and um, well, in the weeks/months following this, she meets a guy on Tinder, starts dating him, and texts me to invite us dancing with them a few times. We don't go very often, and we had a lot going on this last spring/summer, so we were always too busy to go. Each time I tried to plan a lunch or dinner so we could meet him, since that's what she was claiming she wanted, but she would always turn down and say, "We will find a time to actually go out." Summer rolls around and I get pregnant. My toddler's birthday is coming up, and she texts me to come over and give me a birthday gift for my daughter. She comes over, I thank her, catch up a little, and I decide to tell her I'm pregnant. She flips out and jokingly says I need an abortion when I tell her we were planning this and are very happy. We move right on past the subject and keep catching up. Thinking back, I should have told her to leave if she was going to act like that, but I was assuming this was hard news for her because of how jealous she acts about my life. She ends up inviting us to her house that weekend for brunch to meet her boyfriend finally. I say yes since it's not going out and we were free. So that weekend, we meet him and it's very uneventful. He seems like a nice guy, just shy and not much in common between all of us. Uh, well, in the middle of all of this, she gets a job, the place where my husband's good friend works. His wife and him have kids that are the same age as ours, and we hang out with them very frequently. She finds out we all know each other through social media and asks me how we know each other. I explain, and she seems to be pretty upset that I hang out with them more often, even though the only way she wants to hang out is going out and getting drunk. I'm clearly in a different stage of life with kids, and I'm surprised it bothers her so much. She has a few other close girlfriends and now her boyfriend that she does most everything with. Every time I post on social media with them, she'll text me saying she's worried about me and misses me and wants to see me more. I'll say I'm busy with pregnancy and a toddler and stop responding after a while again. My husband's friend will tell us she talks about me at work to him and always brings up if I finally texted her back and what's going on between us, which is just so weird and inappropriate for her to do. Well, last night, my husband comes home from work, having met with his friend, C, for lunch. He told my husband that he's been meaning to tell him that my friend is claiming my husband is in love with her. He didn't want to say anything because of how ridiculous it is, but now she's saying stuff again and getting crazy. Back in September at a work event, my friend got drunk and cornered C because she just had to tell him that T is in love with her. That he danced with her, true, and told her that he wonders what his life would be like if he was with her, untrue. So immediately C says, okay, sure, and gets away from her. He has known my husband since high school and knows that none of this makes sense, especially when my friend has almost gotten fired a few times for lying at work. She brought it up again this week and was yelling at work that she was going to come clean to me and tell me about how my husband loves her, whatever. C tells her she needs to stop spreading rumors, and there's no reason to tell me lies like this, especially when I'm 4 weeks away from giving birth. So that's when he planned a lunch with my husband to tell him what's going on and that to tell me so we would know if/when she texts me anything. I can count on one hand the amount of times my husband and friend have been in the same room together, and I have no suspicions of anything being romantic between them at all. I trust my husband and have been losing trust in my friend since high school. My husband and I are constantly on each other's phones, always with each other or at work, and we have each other's location. I have only seen her 3 times this year. He was a part of 2, NY and meeting the boyfriend, and I can't believe she is clinging on to this dance from him. It's so embarrassing that she talks about me at work nonstop, and now with these insane rumors. I don't know whether or not to confront her. I'm worried she's having a mental breakdown if she really believes it or is being manipulative and finding any way to keep being a part of our lives and the conversation between our friend group. I'm just at a loss. Mainly just wanted to write it all down as well. And most likely, I will stop responding to her and unfollow on social media. I don't need friends who act like it's middle school and start weird drama. Clarification/background. My husband doesn't work with her, just his friend. My mom told me my friend cried on my wedding day as we were driving away. She had only met my husband once at our engagement party before the wedding, as we didn't hang out while she was in college. My husband and moved a couple hours away, but have since moved back home. While we were away, she told me she was interviewing for jobs there so she could be near us, and we had a guest room that she could use. I had to tell her she couldn't live with us, and I wasn't comfortable with her moving to our town under the pretense that we would take care of her or whatever she thought. My husband's friend C says that the events of her confessing to him correlate with when she says her and her boyfriend are fighting, which he hears all the details of as well. My question here isn't about whether or not I should stay friends with her. I am obviously creeped out and haven't wanted to see her since our last interaction in June when I told her I was pregnant and then met her boyfriend. I just want to know if there's anything one can do to shut her down and get her to stop talking about me and harassing my husband's friend at work. Now that this has happened, I will stop responding to her 100%. I just wanted to note I haven't had any real conversations with her since June. She will text me like 5 times in a row over the course of weeks, and I finally respond once and say, "I've been busy." My old friend claims my husband is in love with her because of a two-step dance on NYE a year ago. 3 others danced with her as well this night. We didn't want to leave her out as she was the only single one. Story 2, AIO for feeling betrayed and wanting a divorce at 38 weeks pregnant. I, 20F, have been with my husband, 20M, since senior year in high school. We legally married 2 years ago, right before I shipped out to BMT. Our relationship was amazing. So many great memories and stories we have together, including those from high school. Of course, everything changed when we moved in together. We grew up 2 very different lifestyles. His parents always let him do whatever he wanted and never really made him do many chores. I grew up in a more abusive environment sexually and physically and had to walk on eggshells to please my parent. Our problem started when I had to beg him to clean anything. Keep in mind, I was working full time in the military while he stayed at home playing video games all day. I could only be home for about 4 hours a day at this time. The rest I had to spend at base. For about a week, he would be able to do the dishes without being asked, but then he'd go right back to forgetting again. I'm not sure how I found out, but I had found out he was watching an insane amount of porn every day. Before we started dated, I had made it clear that porn was an issue to me and that I refused to be with anyone who watched it. And he had agreed with me, claiming he only watched it once a week, but would easily stop for me, which I was under the impression that he did. The porn he was watching wasn't normal porn, though. He was watching gay porn. He'd only watched porn of dudes dressed as women doing each other. Huh. When I found out, I was a bit hurt, but tried to help him move on from his addiction. It'd gotten pretty far. About a year later, I thought he was clean again. I was stationed where we were living now. I work a pretty normal schedule, and after that, I was off duty, like a normal civilian job. I had gotten pregnant shortly after, and we were both scared, but accepting. I'm not sure what changed, but somehow to conversation of changing, our sex popped up. He wanted to try a strap on. I was a bit nervous about this, as I didn't want him going down his gay porn path again, but I wanted to be supportive of his sexuality and needs. We tried it, and now it feels as though it's all he wants. Normal sex isn't the same anymore. We stopped doing the butt stuff for a while, but then it was brought up again. My sex drive had depleted during my pregnancy, but I really crave passionate sex like how we were back in high school. But he wants the other stuff. At this point, it hurts me to even try to do him, my pelvis, in so much pain, but he still wants me to do it. I'm due in 2 weeks, and I really don't want to leave him, as I don't want to raise a baby girl by myself. I feel like I'm almost baby trapped and can't leave. He's been getting more aggressive, and today we had a bad argument. He had gotten a belt and had threatened to beat me if I didn't shut up and apologize to him for the argument we were in. He said he's also been late every single day to his part-time job. He works about 20 hours a week, but constantly complains about the job and wanting to quit and always gets distracted playing his video games, making him late. He says the job isn't serious, but we really, really need the extra money. I worked hard to even get him that job. He didn't even want to start working. I feel so empty and sad, but I feel like I can't talk about it as it would only start arguments. We argued right before he went to work today because I was so fed up with him being late. I started crying. He left to go to work at the time he should have been at work. Story 3, AITA for considering leaving my husband of 16 years over gaming. For 16 years, I have been devoted to my husband and our family, but I find myself emotionally drained, questioning whether this relationship can continue. My husband is an avid gamer, and I've always supported this passion wholeheartedly. I've purchased a $3,000 graphics card for him, furnished his gaming space with premium equipment, and encouraged him to indulge in the things that bring him joy. I've never wanted or needed much in return, only mutual respect, shared effort, and a simple life. I don't ask for luxury or extravagance. My happiness comes from the little things, a clean, harmonious home, and a sense of unity in our marriage. But instead of feeling like a cherished partner, I feel more like a maid, um, carrying the weight of our household and family life, largely on my own. We have 2 children, and I manage 2 jobs, running a successful business and picking up additional casual shifts in my profession. In addition to this, I handle all domestic responsibilities, cooking, cleaning, paying bills, managing our finances, and handling every school drop off and pickup. My husband works a single job with an average income, and while his earnings are not a concern, his contribution to our home and family responsibilities falls significantly short. Despite working tirelessly myself, I find myself constantly taking on his share of the household duties as well. His promises to do better have become hollow over the years. Tasks go undone unless I argue about them, and even then, the effort is short lived. His excuses range from I'm too tired to I'll get to it later, and when I express my frustration, he becomes defensive or dismissive, often turning the conversation back on me. One memory stands out. I asked him to mow the lawn, a task that remained undone for 3 months despite repeated assurances. Eventually, I strapped our 8 month old baby to my back and mowed the lawn myself. When I confronted him about it, his response was, I would have done it. Moments like these are not isolated. They are part of a longstanding pattern. At 31, my husband frequently stays up gaming until 4 a.m., and it's the first thing he turns to when he wakes up. While I've done my best to support his hobbies, his lack of consideration and reciprocity leaves me feeling unseen and undervalued. I am not someone who demands lavish gifts or extravagant gestures, but small acts of thoughtfulness would mean the world to me. For his birthdays, I plan meticulously to ensure they are special and memorable. For my 30th, I asked for a simple family picnic. He couldn't organize even that, leaving me to plan, pack, and prepare everything myself. I even had to request balloons. I come from a broken family, and I've spent my life working to create stability for my children. I've given him countless chances, hoping he would change, but nothing ever seems to last. While he is a good father and present with our kids, as a husband, I feel abandoned. Uh, I have come to a crossroads in my marriage. While I've always believed in the sanctity of marriage and the possibility of change, I now find myself questioning whether I possess the strength to continue on this path. Am I asking for too much by desiring a relationship where I feel respected, valued, and supported? Is this kind of imbalance common in relationships, and does it truly evolve over time? I can't help but wonder whether change is achievable or if I am simply wasting precious time. Should I stay for the sake of my children, or would doing so only perpetuate a cycle that ultimately harms us all? My children have flourished in the stable, loving environment we've provided for them, something I so desperately wanted to give them, in contrast to the home I grew up in. Yet, as they thrive, I am left to grapple with the emotional toll this relationship has taken on me. It leaves me in a place where my own needs remain unmet and my heart grows weary. I fear that in leaving, I would be failing as a parent, having made a promise to myself long ago that I would give my children the stability and security I lacked. But I find myself questioning whether I am, in fact, failing them by remaining in a situation where my well-being is compromised. AITA for contemplating leaving. Story 4, my dad won't stop getting upset with me because of my period. So I 17, I had issues with my period since I was 14. Before anyone says you should go to the hospital, I have many times, and they didn't help at all. During the start of summer in 2022, I got my period. It had been irregular for a year by then. So when it lasted longer than usual, I didn't really think too much of it. I wanted to tell my mother, but I was really afraid for some reason. And I decided to wait it out. At that point, about a month and a half had passed. And by now, the cramps were very painful. So I told my mother. She took me to the hospital and they prescribed me the pill, but after a while, it stopped working. The same thing happened a few times until I got one that kept working. Because of how young I was told I would need to take breaks every 3 weeks to make sure everything was still working okay. I ended up with low iron and low hemoglobin levels, which caused me to sleep a lot. Now I don't sleep as much and can stay awake most of the day. It's difficult for me to shop and clubber my period now, and so maintaining a sleep schedule is difficult. At 16, I decided to stop taking the pill because it was making me depressed and angry. My period now has mostly straightened itself out and it only lasts about a week at most. However, when I get my period, the first 2 days of it are usually hell for me. Both the cramps and blood flow are really bad, and I'm mostly a crying mess for those 2 days. I moved to doing online school because it was really hard to manage my period with IRL school, and I couldn't carry painkillers with me. Hey, for some more context, the cramps feel like I'm being stabbed every 3 seconds, and I've had multiple out of body experiences from them. The blood flow is like a dam bursting open, and usually I end up bleeding through pads. Now for the issue. My dad doesn't understand that it's difficult for me to do things or go places when I'm on my period. He keeps trying to guilt trip me by getting angry or saying things like, "Oh, I thought you said you would go," which in turn makes me feel like shit for not going somewhere. He also doesn't understand how I fix my sleep schedule when it's messed up and constantly wakes me up whenever he feels like it. I'm not allowed to say anything to him about it because my mother says it's easier to just get along with him. I woke up yesterday to find I had gotten my period. I had agreed to go somewhere with my family on Sunday, but as it is right now, if I try to stand up beyond a certain point, I immediately get hit with cramps. Uh, he can't seem to understand why I struggle with it so much. He says I complain too much about it, or it can't be that bad, as he says, but if he's sick or something hurts for him, he makes it everyone else's problem. He mostly blames any of my problems on my phone or laptop. I don't know what I can do in this situation or how I can make him understand that I can't just make it stop. He either can't process it or doesn't want to understand that it hurts when I try to do something. For some more context about him, he ruined my last two birthdays by doing/saying stuff he knew would get under my skin. Story 5, need advice for my late bloomer male friend. A couple of days ago, I went on a walk with Guy, 30 years old. I've been friends with for nearly 2 years. At one point, we start talking about our frustrations with modern dating. And eventually, he reveals to me that he is a later bloomer. And I ask more questions, and he confesses to me that during middle and high school, he was a short, chubby kid and felt that girls at best ignored him and at worst found him unattractive. In turn, he internalized this as not being good enough for them and thus did not date. Eventually, in college, he got taller, got into shape, and was more confident in his appearances. After graduating, he planned to pursue a PhD and build a career from that. But despite his good grades, internships, and the academic network he developed, none of the schools accepted him. Um, After years of trying, he just gave up on grad school. Um, During this period, he cycled between minimum wage jobs, gig work, and unemployment, spending much of his early to mid 20s still living with his parents. My friend grew up upper middle class and was ingrained in his mind by his parents that a man should always take care of his partner. He felt like a loser for not forging a career and having his own place yet, unlike his friends from college. In his mind, if he could not take of himself, then how could he expect to take care of potential romantic partners? He has a career now and is doing financially fine. And he wants to pursue dating, but is fearful that women will immediately pick up on his lack of experience and ditch him for someone more romantically mature. And if he does open to potential partners about his late bloomer status, he feels that this would burden these women who would have to guide him on something that he is ashamed about for not taking care of earlier in his life. It doesn't help that he sees and hears stories of guys with more experience struggle with the modern dating scene. Mm, mm. TBH, I was a bit shocked with what he was telling me. While he is not the most extroverted person in the world, he genuinely loves talking to people. From what I've seen with his interactions with women, he's relaxed, does not say awkward stuff, maintains good eye contact, listens to what they are saying, and cracks the occasionally joke to make them laugh. If you I gave him my thoughts and suggestions on the manner, but I would appreciate some suggestions from others on what he should do. Um, any other later bloomers dealing with slash dealt with a similar problem?